Heated Rivalry is a piece of media that has taken off around the world and developed a very strong fan base, which I personally need to go and read the book and watch the show because I've been looking forward to it. But alongside this, there's a story of alleged art tracing that has cropped up and kind of taken social media by storm. So let's delve into the situation. And again, before we get into this, please don't send hate to any parties involved. So this all kicks off with a post that was made on Twitter April 12th that garnered 2.8 million views. And it is a photo of a side-by-side of a bookshelf in a store where you can see the book Heated Rivalry by Rachel Reed is on the right and the book Face Off by Chelsea Curto is on the left. And this is following the fact that Face Off was pushed for publication and print in the UK, and the caption reads, "Oh, this is nasty." And it's a side-by-side of the cover. The main thing that people were discussing is the covers of the book itself, because a lot of people were like, wait a second here, isn't this book Face Off literally ripping off and tracing the cover of Heated Rivalry? And people in the comments were saying things like, how dare the artist agree to do that, blah, 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 blah. But some more information came out because not everything is as it seems. Chelsea Curto, the author of Face Off, made this post on Threads, writing, "I can't believe I have to make this post, but I guess I do. You can say anything you want about me, but plagiarism and cover tracing allegations are something I take very seriously. It's so disheartening to see things shared without research being done, and this is all I'll be saying on the matter." And it reads, "Hi friends, with Face Off re-releasing in the UK, I want to share with people who might be seeing the book for the first time in stores that it was originally self-published before being picked up and put into bookstores around the world. My incredible cover artist first designed these original covers for me back in early 2024, prior to the release date of May 2024. I am thrilled that the cover has stayed the same and that I get to work with her for the rest of my books. I am so grateful for the talent, creativity, and time she's poured into the series for me, and I can't wait to share the last 2 books with you soon." And the author adds, "I'm so glad there are fandoms out there that bring enthusiasm into the world, but it can be dangerous when misinformation is shared so quickly and so widely." And that's what some people were adding. This Twitter user dug a little bit, right? Face Off, it's listed as being published June 2024, so maybe there's a little bit of discrepancy depending on where it was published. And the book Heated Rivalry was published November 26, 2024. So 6 months after Face Off was first published. So if you go by the order of things, Face Off was the first book that came out. It's kind of probably hard to copy a book that wasn't released yet. And then here you can see another post where it says May 30th, 2024 was when Face Off was first published. So that's probably why there's like a June 1st as well, probably just like time zones or something. And the author adds a little bit more context, writing, "I'm not on Twitter or whatever it's called these days, but I do hope this post reaches there so I can further clarify some things I've seen. Watching words like nasty and thief and blatant copying and plagiarism tossed around makes me sick, so I want to be direct." Face Off published in May 2024. The design for Face Off's cover began in January 2024. 11 months prior to the re-release of the revamped paperback editions of a different hockey series, which came with new covers. Because yeah, this was the original cover for Heated Rivalry. Hey, I love it. As an OG Wattpad reader, every single book I was reading looked something like this. I'm gonna be honest, okay? The author continues, "That re-release happened in November 2024. At the time of my cover design and publication, there was not an illustration or cover out there that featured the same poses and background as Face Off. My artist created original artwork, and I stand by that. I'm so happy to see the enthusiasm, attention, and excitement from millions of longtime readers, new readers, and TV watchers for an LGBTQ+ centered hockey universe. Frankly, we need more of it, and it's encouraging and hopeful that a story like this reached mainstream media with the ferocity that it did. With that ferocity comes a fandom willing to defend the thing they so preciously love, and rightfully so. You want to make sure what you care about is protected." I would caution people to remember within that excitement, it's important and crucial to check facts before jumping to conclusions or forming opinions about other things that exist in the world. Again, the other cover was not available when Face Off published. I also haven't had the chance to read the books that everyone is so excited about. I've barely read 10 books in the last year. But the last thing I would ever do is take a story and make it straight for my own benefit. That is extremely harmful to a marginalized community I proudly support with my whole chest. I do my best to stay out of reader spaces. I don't care what people say about my writing or if my books aren't for them. But when my character, and the character of the people I work with, is called into question, I feel compelled to say something publicly despite the attention it might bring. I might have more to share on the matter in the coming days, but for right now, this is all I'm gonna say. I'm probably gonna take a small step back from social media for a minute because the hateful vitriol that is being directed at me is a lot to process, with everything else that's happening in the world. I appreciate appreciate those of you who have been so kind, and I encourage you to continue that kindness during any further conversations that might arise. Just stepping back, as somebody who is an avid reader, I don't read as much as some wild, voracious readers do. I wish I could. This is like my current read. Absolutely love it so far, halfway through. Hockey romances have also just been really, really popular recently. Within the last couple of years, in the contemporary romance space, there has been so much hockey romance. So you can't look at one hockey romance essentially and accuse them of copying another hockey romance. Of course, there are I'm not saying in this case, but sometimes there are blatant plagiarism that happens in the book space. But if the book is covering a similar topic, as in the same sport, a lot of the romance lines and the things that happen might just end up being similar because they likely might just be things that happen in hockey, right? There's gonna be similarities. It's both if they're both talking about hockey. But I can't speak on these two books personally because I have not read either, just because I don't really know much about hockey, I'm gonna be honest. And that's kind of what some people in the comments are saying, right? This person writes, okay, so they're both hockey books. There are only so many hockey poses for a cover. As for the story and accusation of making it straight, it's a love story. Again, there's only so many ways you can write them. Not everything is going to be completely new territory. So is every brothers and childhood friend love triangle going to be accused of copying The Summer I Turned Pretty? Some stories are always going to be slightly similar. And you know what? I'm gonna read them anyways. Another person writes, genuinely perplexed about what else you were supposed to put on the cover of a hockey book called Face Off anyways. Lord, I am so sorry this is happening. And this is actually something that I learned. So a face-off is something that happens in hockey where they drop the puck between two players of the opposing team, and it's kind of that's how you get the puck for your team. Kind of like in basketball, the tip-off. First off, if your book is titled Face-Off, well, you're probably going to use a face-off as the cover. But also, secondly, there's only so many poses you can really use for a face-off in the first place. Because if you think of it from a book cover perspective, right? Most of the time, you probably want to show the faces of your characters. So you're probably a little bit limited in terms of top-down views might kind of be out of the question because the face will be obscured. Potentially a pose like this, you might see one person's face, the other person's face might end up being obscured, or you end up probably with the straight side profile where both persons' faces are visible, which leaves you very limited for the amount of poses you could do for the cover. And the artist of the face-off cover actually came and put out a statement as well, writing, "Hey y'all, I would never trace another artist's work and give it to a publisher or author. Authors deserve to have their stories honored with original artwork. With AI, declining jobs, and all of the other barriers artists and authors are facing, we need to uplift and support each other now more than ever." And the author has a further video talking about this.
This is a video I really did not want to have to make, but here we are. Face Off by Chelsea Curto was picked up for traditional publishing, but with her covers being displayed in stores next to Heated Rivalry, people are starting to get nasty, and I wanted to clear something up. The cover that I created for Chelsea existed long before the Heated Rivalry cover. Chelsea and I started working on her cover for Face Off in January of 2024, and then it was revealed May 18th of 2024. And then self-published on May 30th. Heated Rivalry's illustrated cover was revealed October 4th, 2024, and published November 26th. When both Chelsea and I saw this, we contacted my illustration agency to try and handle this behind the scenes. There was little to no legal recourse that we had. I chose not to make a comment about this online because I've been struggling with chronic illness, and social stress really causes my symptoms to flare. Please don't get me wrong. I'm very excited and happy that Heated Rivalry's story and Rachel Reed found success and opened the door for more queer love stories to gain attention and adaptations. I want to be clear, my frustrations in this situation are not directed at Heated Rivalry, its story, or its author. They're with the illustrator, art team, and publisher that let this happen. When I heard that Chelsea was being picked up for traditional publishing, I was excited, but I was also afraid that this would happen. I would never trace another artist's work and give it to a publisher or author. My work was traced and then given an international audience, and Chelsea and I couldn't do anything to change that, despite the fact that the cover was hers first.
People in the comments are showing a lot of support for the artist, as they most definitely should. Oh my gosh, hold on, my cats. All right, kitty tax for the cat that was trying to break into my room. Oh my gosh. And people are saying, beautifully put. And to know you tried to handle it behind the scenes back in 2024, once the Heated Rivalry cover was revealed, shows even more what kind of woman you are. Another person says, wait, are you now saying your cover art was traced by the Heated Rivalry cover illustrator? And the author, Chelsea Curto, says, "I'm not saying anything besides timelines and publishing dates. If you want photos, you can pop over to Twitter and find plenty." And other people are saying, to be honest, I don't even see it as a controversy. There are only so many positions to portray two players facing off in hockey. Remember when Twilight came out and there was suddenly a slew of vampire romance books with black covers and single objects like red or bloody flowers? It's just book cover business. And another person says, "I keep seeing people say this, and I think they're missing some of the details. The issue isn't the face-off position, but the fact the illustrator actually traced her illustration for the Heated Rivalry cover. If you look at the lines themselves, they are identical. They just removed the long hair and adjusted the sizes." So yeah, looking at the covers, right? This is the cover of Face Off. It's super cute. I haven't read it, but apparently the premise of Face Off is she is the first female NHL player, which is why people were like, oh, why are they facing off if they're like literally on the same team? Because Face Off is done with opposing teams. So that's my understanding of why this is the way it is. But regardless, right? If you overlap the Heated Rivalry cover, the characters are obviously two different heights, the right character. There are a bit of similarities in the posing. So that's kind of what people were saying, right? Which like, that's that one. And then again, we have this one. Like the leg pose, the stripe on the leg even, the stripe on the pants. It's really similar. It's really similar. Is it one-to-one traced? You could argue maybe it is, maybe it isn't, maybe it's loosely traced, but the poses are identical, very similar. And then again, you're gonna bring up the question of like, okay, nobody owns a pose, right? And that is a very valid point that people have also brought up on the internet. With another person writing, or maybe both artists used the same reference. One Google search and a little scroll got me this Adobe stock photo, rival hockey player stock photo. And this is why using only one reference for art is not the best way to go. Always good to have multiple and mash them all until it's not traceable to one source. Doesn't mean you trace all of them and mix and match, by the way. I'm also aware of the possible process behind the scenes. For example, publishers, authors, directors being set onto one direction of the art, which illustrators don't really have a choice in. And other people were saying, well, it's literally the start of every game, round, quarter. I don't actually know how many times this happens in match, but I know enough about hockey to know this happens all the time in hockey. Look, Mighty Ducks did it too. And another person adds, no, because this was the first thing I thought of too. It's really not uncommon for artists to use the same references. And even recently, some have been accused of tracing more popular artists when it turns out everyone was just using the same reference they all saw on Pinterest. And yeah, that's totally fair of a point. Because if we put this reference photo here, that Adobe stock reference image, you can see they line up really similarly. In fact, it really does line up similarly. That's really interesting. And that's very suspicious. So this then brings up a couple of possibilities, right? Either the possibility of this, the face-off cover, being traced off Heated Rivalry's cover is just impossible due to timelines. So that is just straight up going to be incorrect. But then it brings up the possibility of, okay, did the illustrator of this illustrated version of Heated Rivalry trace this cover from Face Off? Or did they both happen to reference the exact same stock image that has both players in the exact same pose? And for that reason, the covers looking so similar. I am curious about your thoughts. It honestly kind of maybe is like, I guess, how much benefit of doubt do you want to assign to the illustrator? But I think going beyond that, though, I feel, and this is my tinfoil hat theory, right? Because Heated Rivalry was such a media storm, such a popular series, there has to be like no way they didn't do public research before crafting the cover, right? Like whatever team, etc. I don't know the author, I don't know the team, etc. But there probably is like a team of some sort, the publisher, etc., advising the cover and the direction the cover should go in. And again, a lot of times the art is worked on months in advance. So there could be a possibility the artwork begun for the Heated Rivalry cover before Face Off was released. Because again, there was about a 6-month window for the production of the cover for Face Off, like from start to finish. Possibly there could have been a situation where the cover began for Heated Rivalry. They didn't see Face Off's cover. My tinfoil hat theory is that when it comes to making like a book or anything, a brand, you typically would do research of other books and other media in your industry, right? If you're going to start, I don't know, a sticker brand, if you have a brand name you want to use, you're probably going to go look it up to make sure, I don't know, nobody has the name already so that you don't end up infringing on somebody else's copyright. In this case, you know, we have this hockey romance book. Would they have, I don't know, not looked up other hockey romance books to see how the cover looks like and then been like, oh, our cover looks really similar to this other cover. Maybe we should change it a little bit, because the thing is, beyond just like the poses, and you can make the argument if nobody owns a pose, the whole composition of the cover is the same, where there is a difference of the DC Star series being up here, but the background for 2/3 of the image is a gradient. We have a gradient from a darker purple down to a very lavender purple. Heated Rivalry's background Oh, it's also a gradient from darker blue to kind of teal. And then there is the text above the character's head. Oh, we also have the text up here. And then we have the players facing off on the bottom half of the cover. Oh, we also have that here. And then we have the author's name on the bottom. And here we have the author's name also on the bottom with the same style of font where it's also in all caps. On top of that, the ground is also drawn the exact same. And okay, of course, this is how a hockey rink looks like. It will look like this, but you know what I mean? Like the composition is all the same, you know? There could have been things to make it look different. Like a stadium crowd could have been drawn in the background so that it's not the same gradient background happening. Maybe the font could have been a little different, or like placement of things, you know? Because we could bring up the argument, well, on a book, there's only so many places you could put the title of the book and the author's name. But again, you know, we could make it a little different. We could have the characters really big and the words heated rivalry kind of like intersecting into the background of the character, so it looks more unique. The author's name could be placed on the top instead. Like this one, How to End a Love Story. You know, the whole actual front of the book is the title, and then we just have like two characters kind of drawn in. You know, a couple more examples. Now, again, actually, ironically, How to End a Love Story is like literally right here. The characters drawn like this in this specific style on the cover has just been super popular in the contemporary romance space for a couple of years now. But again, like the point that I was trying to make is that there are kind of ways you can incorporate if you really want to be like really gung-ho about having characters drawn like this, while incorporating typology for the text that doesn't make the composition of your cover also look really, really similar to another book that already exists. But to wrap it up, the author writes, I'm saying one last thing today, and then you're not hearing from me for a while. Please, I beg of you, do not throw hate towards a single individual on my behalf. Things get said, and yeah, they suck, but at the end of the day, saying harmful things back is no better than what anyone else is doing. I'm fine. Really, I am. And I just want everyone to lead with as much kindness as they can. That's all. Heart. But at the end of the day, I'm curious about your thoughts on this whole situation. And again, don't send hate to any parties involved, right? Do not bully people. Do not do that. Do you think this was a situation where the face-off cover was actually traced by the process of creating the cover for Heated Rivalry? Or do you think it was an unfortunate situation where they both used the same reference photo? Again, I just want to add that a lot of times, from what I have heard in the book spaces, when there is a publisher, etc., sometimes the author and the illustrator may not get as much say in how the cover looks like as they would like. Sometimes the direction is chosen a long time ago, etc. And your hands are kind of tied in terms of like, they're like, oh yeah, this is just like the option. So I don't know if it's a situation like that where somebody up there was kind of like, this is going to be the cover. You're going to make something like this. Do it. And then they're kind of like, oh, well, I guess. Right. But at the end of the day, it just causes a problem for, you know, like the author of Face Off, who had a book with the cover that was revealed first, but because Heated Rivalry just is more popular, because of the popularity, people accidentally falsely assumed, oh, well, like, there's no way a popular series would have copied somebody, so then it must have been the other way around, right? And it caused like this false narrative to appear that just wasn't true. So that absolutely sucks at the end of the day. Go read whatever you want, support the authors and stuff that you like, and don't send hate to people, you know? But I'm curious about your thoughts on the situation, the timeline, etc. What do you think? I still need to go watch Heated Rivalry. And with that, if you like this video, I appreciate it if you like and subscribe. Don't forget to check me out on Etsy. I have digital art there for streamers and creators. I also have a coffee with free resources like a free sponsorship guide. And I stream on Twitch 3 days a week, Mondays and Saturdays at 6 p.m. and Thursdays at 7:30. So I hope to catch y'all there or in another video. Peace.